State lawmakers tonight scrambling to come up with new funding ideas to avoid next week's teacher strike. Well, CBS 5 investigates whether weed could be an alternative revenue solution.
A Republican and a Democrat are renewing efforts to legalize pot in Arizona to help pay for teacher raises. But just how much tax money would that generate? We sent Derek Stahl to find out.
Good evening. Republican State Representative Todd Clodfelter tells me he'll be meeting with reps from the marijuana industry on this very topic this weekend. He and Democrat Mark Cardenas are trying to resurrect support from some legislation they introduced this year. It all seemed dead, but they're hoping Red for Ed gives it new life.
420 drew big crowds at dispensaries across the valley, along with a reminder of the tax revenue cannabis can create.
We plan to inject that as part of the budget discussions. You want $150 million for teachers to have their cost of living adjustments to make up a significant chunk of what they need for their raise. Here you go.
State Rep Mark Cardenas says his plan to legalize marijuana for people over 21 could generate $150 million in tax revenue a year, depending on how many cities decided to allow it. That's about a quarter of what the governor's office projects those 20% teacher raises will cost, roughly $650 million.
We have already $130 million from the federal tax revenue conformity. That's another $150 million. You're halfway there at that point.
His legislation would put legalization up for a statewide vote in November. Back in 2016, voters narrowly rejected Prop 205, which would have allowed adult use. But Cardenas says things have changed.
Polling shows that the majority of Arizonans are in support of legalized cannabis. So our job is to make sure it happens, to have those conversations, to lay egos aside and come from different areas, and to realize this is a revenue source that we desperately need.
To be sure, the legislation is a long shot. It would have to get the blessing of Governor Doug Ducey, who was staunchly opposed to Prop 205. And despite a meeting with cannabis industry leaders this month, a spokesman for the governor says he's not aware of any major change of heart.
Now, it would likely take 2 years before the first recreational stores opened up in Arizona, so the tax revenue would not be available right away. I'm Derek Stahl for Arizona.